20 million tons of gold sit dissolved in the Earth's oceans right now. Spread across 1.335 billion cubic kilometers of seawater at a concentration so low, 13 billionths of a gram per liter, that no technology in human history has successfully extracted a single profitable ounce of it. In 1920, Nobel laureate Fritz Haber launched a secret program to filter gold from the Atlantic to pay Germany's war reparations. Ran the numbers for 2 years across multiple ocean-going expeditions, and discovered his original concentration estimates were off by a factor of 1,000. The gold was there, verified and measured, but the ocean had diluted it past the threshold of any conceivable industrial process. A century later, a Canadian company called the Metals Company has found a workaround that bypasses dissolved gold, entirely potato-sized rocks lying loose on the Pacific sea floor at 4,000 meters depth, containing nickel, cobalt, manganese, and copper worth an estimated $20 trillion across a single geological zone. In April 2025, the company filed the first commercial deep seabed mining application in United States history with NOAA. And as of July 2025, the International Seabed Authority concluded its council session in Kingston, Jamaica, without adopting a mining code, meaning the regulatory architecture governing the largest mineral deposit on Earth does not yet exist. And the company planning to mine it has announced a production start date of late 2027. The zone in question is the Clarion-Clipperton Zone, a band of Pacific seafloor stretching 7,240 kilometers from east to west between Hawaii and Mexico, covering approximately 4.5 million square kilometers, an area larger than the European Union. The International Seabed Authority estimates that 21.1 billion dry tons of polymetallic nodules sit on the abyssal plain within this zone, containing roughly 5.95 billion tons of manganese, 270 million tons of nickel, 230 million tons of copper, and 50 million tons of cobalt. These nodules grow at a rate of roughly 10 millimeters per million years, accreting metal oxides around fragments of shark teeth and whalebone on a seafloor that averages 4,000 to 5,500 meters deep. They are not buried. They are not embedded in rock. They sit on top of the mud like stones in a dry riverbed, which is precisely what makes them attractive to industrial extraction. No drilling, no blasting, no tunneling. The engineering challenge is not reaching the mineral. The engineering challenge is building a machine that can operate reliably at 400 atmospheres of pressure, 4 kilometers below a surface vessel, and send material up a riser pipe without the system collapsing under its own weight. The first company to attempt this at anything resembling industrial scale was Nautilus Minerals, a Canadian firm founded in 1997. Their Sulwara 1 project targeted not nodules but seafloor massive sulfide deposits, mineral chimneys formed by hydrothermal vents in the Bismarck Sea, 1,600 meters below the surface off the coast of Papua New Guinea. The deposit contained copper at grades of 7.2% and gold at 5 grams per ton grades that would be considered exceptional in any terrestrial mine, where copper deposits below 0.5% are routinely exploited. Nautilus spent over $450 million developing 3 purpose-built robotic seafloor production machines, an auxiliary cutter, a bulk cutter, and a collecting machine, all of which were completed, tested, and delivered by 2016. The company then contracted a 227-meter production support vessel to serve as the surface platform for the entire operation. The Papua New Guinea government contributed $132.9 million for a 15% equity stake. The projected mine plan would extract 1.957 million metric tons of ore from an area of just 11 hectares over 3 years. None of it happened. Payment disputes between Nautilus and the shipyard building the production vessel led to the contract's cancellation in 2018. The half-completed ship was repossessed and repurposed by another company. Without the vessel, the 3 seafloor machines sitting in a warehouse had no way to reach the deposit, no way to process ore, and no way to return material to the surface. By early 2019, Nautilus had drawn down half of a $34 million credit line and held only $200,000 in cash. The company filed for bankruptcy protection in a Canadian court in February 2019 and was formally delisted from the Toronto Stock Exchange later that year. Papua New Guinea's Prime Minister James Marape stated publicly that the country had burnt almost 300 million kina on a total failure. The Minister of State-Owned Enterprises called the national debt from the project money sunk into the ocean.
This is unacceptable.
An entire nation's first experiment with seabed mining ended not with environmental catastrophe or technical failure at depth, but with a canceled shipbuilding contract and an empty bank account on dry land. The metals company rose directly from that wreckage. Its founder, Gerard Barron, was an early investor in Nautilus Minerals and a close associate of Nautilus co-founder David Hayden, who later established Deep Green, the company that rebranded as TMC, where Nautilus targeted hydrothermal vent sulfides at 1,600 meters. TMC targets polymetallic nodules at 4,000 to 5,500 meters deeper, but operationally simpler because the nodules require no cutting, no blasting, and no structural demolition. The collection concept involves a tracked vehicle, a collector that drives across the sea floor, vacuuming nodules off the surface and feeding them into a riser system that lifts them hydraulically to the surface vessel. TMC's strategic partner, the Dutch offshore engineering firm Alces, acquired a 228-meter former ultra-deep-water drill ship in March 2020 and renamed it the Hidden Gem. The vessel was converted in Rotterdam into what Alces calls the world's first fully operational deep-sea mineral production vessel, equipped with a seabed-to-surface nodule collection and transport system rated for operations at over 4 kilometers depth. In November 2022, Alces and TMC's subsidiary Nori conducted the first integrated pilot collection test in the Nori-D area of the Clarion-Clipperton Zone. The collector vehicle operated at the sea floor, gathered nodules, and fed them up the riser to the Hidden Gem. The test lifted over 3,000 wet tons of polymetallic nodules to the surface and achieved a sustained production rate of 86.4 tons per hour. The target for full commercial operations is 3 million wet tons per year. TMC's NOAA application, filed in April 2025 under the Deep Seabed Hard Mineral Resources Act of 1980, covers a commercial recovery area of approximately 65,000 square kilometers within the CCZ, an area slightly smaller than Ireland. The company has stated publicly that it expects to begin commercial production from the NORI-D area in the fourth quarter of 2027, contingent on regulatory approval, with Alces contracted to provide the offshore production system under a formal commercial nodule recovery agreement signed in early 2026. Meanwhile, Japan has pursued a parallel track targeting hydrothermal deposits rather than nodules. In January and August 2017, Japan's National Resource Agency, JOGMEC, conducted the world's first excavation and ore lifting test of seafloor massive sulfides in the Okinawa Trough, at a depth of 1,600 meters. An excavator lowered to the seafloor crushed polymetallic sulfide ore containing zinc, lead, copper, and gold into fragments of 3 centimeters or smaller. and a submersible pump lifted
Look at the texture on this
16.4
piece.
tons of material to
It
the surface
confirms the
vessel.
high concentration we projected.
JOGMEC has since identified a
Make sure
mineral
to
resource
log the
potential
exact
of
location
50
data.
million
As
tons
you can
across
see
the
on the
hydrothermal
screen,
fields
the
in
commercial
Japan's
production
exclusive
milestone
economic
is
zone.
set for 2029.
The agency has publicly stated its
must
goal of
adhere to this
establishing commercial
timeline.
seafloor mining capability before the end of the current decade, making Japan the only nation pursuing massive sulfide extraction, the gold-bearing variety, on an explicit government-backed timeline.
The manifold
The 27-ton Patania II,
Are the
built by
hydraulic
Belgian
levels
dredging
stable?
conglomerate
Yes, readings are nominal
DEME's
across
subsidiary
the board.
GSR,
The
represents a
adjustments
third
work.
design philosophy.
The intake clearance looks
Deployed in
good from
April
here.
2021 in the Clarion-Clipperton zone at over 4,000 meters, Patania II is a tracked mining robot that vacuums nodules from the sediment surface. Its test covered 52 kilometers of seafloor travel at speeds between 0.1 and 0.75 meters per second. The trial confirmed collection capability, but also confirmed environmental concerns, sediment plumes generated by the collectors spread across the abyssal plain. And researchers from the JPY Oceans project documented that more than half the species collected in the CCZ during the trial period were previously unknown to science, raising the question of what is being destroyed before it can even be cataloged. A separate startup, Impossible Metals, has developed an AI-guided hovering robot that uses computer vision and robotic arms to selectively pick up individual nodules without disturbing the surrounding sediment, a precision approach designed specifically to answer the environmental objections that tracked collectors cannot. The regulatory void surrounding all of this is not accidental. The International Seabed Authority, based in Kingston, Jamaica, has been developing a mining code, the regulatory framework governing commercial exploitation of minerals in international waters, since 2014. In July 2021, the Pacific island nation of Nauru invoked the so-called two-year rule, formally notifying the ISA that it intended to sponsor deep-sea mining, which triggered a 2-year deadline for the ISA to finalize regulations. That deadline passed in July 2023 without a completed code. The ISA's most recent council session concluded on July 21, 2025, again without adopting a mining code. And the council simultaneously initiated an investigation into whether TMC and its subsidiaries are complying with their legal obligations under existing exploration contracts. A direct response to TMC's decision to pursue commercial mining under U.S. domestic law, rather than waiting for the international framework. 37 national governments now formally support a moratorium, precautionary pause, or outright ban on deep-sea mining. 40 financial institutions representing over 3.8 trillion euros in combined assets have publicly stated that mining should not proceed until risks are comprehensively understood. TMC's market capitalization as of mid-2026 stands at approximately $2 billion, a valuation built entirely on a deposit no company has yet commercially mined, governed by regulations that do not yet exist, opposed by a coalition of nations, banks, and scientists, and scheduled to begin production in 17 months.